Live from Atlanta, Georgia, it's the Zach Ballinger Show, where we help you find your direction through passion and purpose. My name is Zach Ballinger. I am your host. Thank you guys so much for listening today. We have a great guest. So before we get started, you guys can always email me any questions, zach@zachballinger.com. Also, we are streaming live via YouTube. So if you have questions for me and my guests, make sure to pop them into the box. We're excited. This is near our 90th career library episode. So today we have a really good guest. Nora, thank you so much for joining the show.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
So Nora, tell us a little bit about what you do.
So I'm a yoga teacher and yoga therapist, and I've been doing this for about 15 years.
Wow. And so what is a yoga teacher therapist? Now, most of us are familiar with what yoga is, but
right.
Maybe somebody isn't. Could you walk us through it?
Sure. So I'll start with what yoga is. Yoga is, first of all, it's an ancient practice that has been brought to the West, and it's been changed a little bit to adapt to, Western people. Basically, it's a form of exercise and mindfulness practices that allow you to get in touch with yourself, become more aware of your body, what's going on in your mind, and ultimately it clears you from all the unnecessary baggage that we carry around and gives us the sense of peace. And when you have this sense of peace, the energy flows, your body functions better, your mind is clearer, and you're ultimately happier.
Nice. And then what got you into teaching this?
Well, it's a bit of a story. So first of all, I started out in my youth as a gymnast. So physical activity was not, foreign to me. But after I had my daughter, I had an epidural injury. So I wasn't able to function like I used to. My legs were fatigued all the time. I had a lot of pain in my low back. And it took many, many, many years, but it was yoga that got me through it. It was the ability to spend time relaxing, seriously in stillness, which I was unable to do before, which started to heal the nervous system in that area. And it was the stretching, which then allowed the energy to flow through the tense areas because the tension was keeping the energy from flowing. And then gradually over the years, I started to strengthen. So there was various stages and practices that I went through that took me all the way back to good health and proper functioning. And in the process, I learned a lot, and I knew that it was going to help other people. So I was lucky to find a yoga teacher who was just starting to do a training. And her background was in therapeutic yoga, which was perfect for me at the time. And I didn't stop there. I took more trainings after that. But the real thing about it is once you know how it works and how it can help you, you can't help but share it. Even if it's not in a professional sense. You need to help people not feel pain.
And so, this kind of transition to that kind of along the same lines, but what do you absolutely love about your job? What are you passionate about?
I absolutely love helping people feel better. So it's to see them lose the tension, to see them come into a place of relaxation, to see them gain strength in areas that have been weak. They're very, very happy about it. And that is ultimately what makes me happy and enjoy doing what I'm doing.
Awesome. And then at the same time, things always look really cool on the surface. So, I have a lot of different cool career paths that come on and share, but, there's always downsides to any career field. There's always a couple of negative aspects. Mm-hmm. So what's something that's might be challenging about your job?
Well, earning money, first of all. I mean, it's out there. It's just people don't want to give it that easily for something that seems so, I don't know, maybe to them it's unnecessary or easy to do themselves. but to get proper instruction, you need to pay a little bit of money and take it seriously. It's not something you do once in a while. It's something that needs to be done regularly. So it's a commitment, and for results anyhow. And so there's a lot of yoga studios out there. There's a lot of yoga teachers out there, and so it's a bit of a competition. But I just want to say that the upside of that is there's always somebody who needs you versus somebody else. Just each person has something different to offer. So it is challenging, but if you find the right way to do it, everyone's got, either you work in a studio or you do privates in people's homes or you teach in corporate setting. Getting the gig is the hard part. But after that,
Yeah, and it's kind of similar, I would say, and maybe even a little bit more competitive. It's almost like when I had my personal trainer come on and talk about his career. You got to fight for every client, and then you also have to have the clients that are willing to keep showing up and take
Right.
instruction. And then also, there's a lot of personal trainers out there. So, most kind of, if you guys are out there listening, maybe that's a good parallel for you. Now, what kind of degrees or educational certificates? So let's say somebody's out there listening, they're like, this is always a dream career that I wanted to do. What do you have to do to get there?
Okay, so I'll talk about being a yoga teacher first, and yoga therapist is different. So a yoga teacher requires minimum of 200 hours of training with a school. I would recommend a school that is approved by the Yoga Alliance, which is an association. And basically, they have to follow a set curriculum. There has to be a certain number of hours in each area of training. And that is the minimum. And that gives you also the chance to get insurance. So you can get covered, you can work, you're hireable by studios and any kind of organization that would like you to have insurance. After that, there's a 500-hour training. So you can take a 500-hour right off the bat, or you add another 300 hours, which gets you a higher standing and more experience, obviously. Yoga is very in-depth. You never stop learning. I've had 1,500 hours of training, and there's still more to learn. There's always somebody that can teach it too, but just it's a lifelong learning, teaching and practice.
So again, let's say somebody's out there and they've been in yoga and they're thinking about this particular career field. What I want you to do is walk us through a typical day. Now, I know that's challenging because everybody's days change from day to day, but I want to shine a light kind of on your day, because I want people to get the impression that it's not like you're doing yoga for 8 hours every single day. So
Right.
walk us through the time. Let's say somebody's going to do a virtual preceptorship with you. They get up, they have coffee with you, and then they leave that day. Walk us through that.
Okay, so one day of the training?
Just one day of the life of a yoga instructor.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
as a career.
Yeah. All right. Well, I check my emails first thing, obviously, looking for any changes in the schedule. And I start with my own practice, because you must keep up your own practice in order to be able to share it with others for a lot of reasons. And I won't need to tell you them all right now. But the next thing would be attending to the first. So I do a lot of online sessions. So right after this, I have a private client who I've had for 13 years, and her husband have been doing yoga, twice a week for the last 13 years. So I'm with them for an hour and a half, and then I'll head down to downtown Chattanooga, and I'll be in the studio for a few hours, and I'll teach a couple of classes, and I'll teach a private. So that's about 4 sessions a day. That's I would say the maximum for most people, comfortably to handle. Maybe 5 you can do in a day. But for me, that's good. 4 is good. I don't need more than that in a day. And so with each client, I would go through an assessment of what's going on with them, how they're feeling. Their needs for the day would be different each day because of, we're always in flux. And then we would do the practice, which would lead from a very simple beginning gradually increasing in intensity and then bringing it down to the end so they're coming into a deep relaxation. And my hope is that they leave feeling refreshed and good.
Wow.
And then payment is always different for every person. So they could be paying me right on the spot through, Venmo or cash. So there's all kinds of different arrangements. That's always a part of the day too, is making sure that gets taken care of.
Yeah, thanks for walking us through that. I just want people to realize this a lot more than you're just going to a gym 8 hours a day, and that's what I want people to learn. Like, even there's a human aspect, like you said, emails. You're trying to grow your business, you're talking to clients, you're following up, you've got to
Right.
chase down payments. So it's not just like you wake up. It's like I tell people that want to be a chef. There's other things than just you're going to be cooking for 8 hours.
Right.
So thanks for shining a light on that. Now, let's take you back in a time machine, and we're going to take you back to third, fourth, fifth grade. What did young Nora growing up always dream about doing? And it, of course, doesn't have to be yoga, but any dream career you could think of.
Right. Well, my dream was to be an Olympic athlete, but that ended at 15. So, um, ultimately, I think I wanted to travel a lot, and I like the idea of being a flight attendant back in those days. Yeah, I didn't imagine being a yoga teacher.
But it's interesting because I always tell people to look back on their dreams, because sometimes your passions might be in your rear view mirror. They might be right in front of you in your window, your mirror.
Right.
And for you, it's interesting because it seems like you've always had this athletic, like you said, Olympic, and then you said something other career, rather to an athlete, a gymnast.
Yes.
And so it's interesting how your dream since you were little kind of aligns to an athletic career.
Yeah, it's true, and it does, and I do travel for my job, so it's better than being a flight attendant, I think.
And you're doing something you actually love to do, and that's teach yoga. And so let's say that somebody's out there and they're wanting to learn more about your classes. And now
Mhm.
you said something about online. So how
Yes.
does people get in touch with you?
Okay, so right here, if you can see my name beside it, I put yoga with three A's and an H. That's my business name. So you can reach out through yoga.com, and I will be happy to share any information you're looking for. But you'll also find on the website my online classes, which I have several a week that you can choose from. It's easy to just, click the button, reserve a spot, and join me. It's Zoom. And then I'm also doing a 200-hour online yoga teacher training. So if you really want to get into this, and by the way, it's not a commitment for the whole 200 hours. It's broken up into parts. There's different courses within the 200 hours that you can just take as interest if you only want to learn a little bit more. But if you would like to teach and you would like to get certified to teach, then this training is spanned out over 3.5 months on the weekends, every other weekend, and 2 evenings a week. And it's all online, but it's live. And when you can't make a session, you can always do the recording. There'll be different components. We'll be doing, obviously, practice. We'll start at the basics. We'll move through therapeutics. We'll move through, breaking down the poses, understanding the alignment, how they benefit you. We'll talk about sequencing, and we'll have practice teaching sessions as well in groups on Zoom. And of course, there's philosophy, which goes into some history as well. And there's theory, and there's functional movement, anatomy and physiology, and more. So all these parts will make up the whole. And so you can take it in any amount that is of interest to you. And there's all kinds of arrangements we can make financially as well if you're feeling that that might be a strain.
Wow. So, that's kind of neat to know that you actually teach. So if somebody is interested in the career field, then they can just hook up with you right there. Now, where do people, so you have a website, social media, where can people follow you? Let's say they want to follow you just on social media.
Sure. On Instagram, it's yoga with 3 A's and a H .ed. And on Facebook, it's Nora Sundari Benian. The middle name's not there, but if you just put Nora Benian in, I'm sure you'll find me. It's pretty easy. And yeah, so that's the only two I'm using. I'm a little bit on LinkedIn, but it's not fully developed yet. So Nora Benian on LinkedIn as well.
Gotcha. And thank you for that. So we have some questions that I did want to get to that people had emailed in earlier. So somebody writes in, is there different types of yoga? Because I've heard of like hot yoga. Can you walk us through different types?
Sure. So I'll start with this. All yoga stems from one place, and it's called hatha. Hatha. Ha means sun, tha means moon, and it's really like a balancing yoga. Without giving too much detail. From that place, we've got Ashtanga, which is a very vigorous upper body strength-based practice. We've got Iyengar, which is a little bit more therapeutic and regimented. We've got Shivananda Yoga, which is also a set sequence. We've got Jivamukti. There's Kripalu. They're all branches. They all have varying amounts of difficulty and intensity and focus. Hot yoga is basically hatha yoga in heat. And the idea behind it is that you really work up a sweat. It also helps loosen connective tissue. And so it's not safe for all bodies. I just want to say that. If you already have loose joints, you might need to protect yourself from being in too much heat while practicing, because the ligaments may not hold up under that looseness. They might get injured. So you practice very carefully in hot yoga. But it does certainly build up a sweat, and it helps you purify the toxins out of the body. And you feel pretty good, especially if you're experiencing like cold winters. Hot yoga is really nice to, go into and come out of.
Thank you for that. That's very helpful. The next question comes in. It says, how did you fall into this line of work?
So for me, I actually took on Thai yoga massage, which was a way for me to just help people and not hurt myself while helping people. And through that, I found my yoga teacher because she had a studio and I wanted to offer Thai massage there, and she suggested I take her training. So for me, it was very organic. I didn't have to think too much about it. I loved what she taught, and it became so much a part of my life that I needed to share it with others.
Awesome. And then another question, I believe this is our last question. It says, who all would benefit from yoga?
Everybody. And I say this because there's so many different ways to apply yoga. Yoga can be just simply learning how to breathe well. Yoga can be simply learning how to stay still and calm and centered. Yoga can be done in a bed. You don't even have to move a muscle, and you're still moving the energy through the body with your intention. So yoga is for everybody. Now, if you want to do more physical practices, again, it's still for everybody, but you work from the gentlest to the most vigorous based on what your body can do and where you're at in your healing and in your physical development.
And, I lied. So there is one more. It says, the question is, what time commitment do I, as a participant, need to commit per week, per month?
Okay, so just someone who wants to practice yoga and wants some results, I'd say 2 classes a week minimum.
And how long are those classes?
An hour, hour and a half, or anywhere in between.
And you give the virtual option too. So
yes.
Gotcha.
Yes, right.
Yeah, so Nora, this has been really helpful. I love it when people have different unique careers. I think this is really unique. It's a pretty awesome opportunity. You can tell by just some of your answers that you're really passionate about it and that you love to help people that are doing it. So one more time, and do you have a website that I could go? Let's say, because this will be on audio format too, and I want the listeners who are listening to an audio. If you could just give us your website one more time, that'd be great.
Sure. It's www.yogaah.com.
Gotcha. So, guys, if you're out there listening, you're interested in this career path, Nora, follow her on her social media links, getting connected with her. She also teaches the classes. So, if you're really, really interested in maybe even doing this as a career path, get plugged in with her and take her course. And it's pretty neat. We don't have this often where we actually have somebody sharing their career and then offering you a path forward in an educational manner to get there. So, pretty unique concept. Nora, thank you so much for joining the show. Thank you for your time. Thank you for giving back to my audience. And we really appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks, Zach. It was a pleasure.
Guys, until next time, this is the Zach Ballinger Show.